Hello and welcome to this video on data structures in Python. In this tutorial, we are going to learn about lists and tuples. And in the next video, we continue to learn about sets and dictionaries. So let's get started. Data structures are a way to organize and store data in a program. They allow you to organize data in a way that is easy to access, modify, and process. In Python, we have several built-in data structures that we can use to store data. We have lists, tuples, sets, and dictionaries. Let's start by learning about lists. Lists are one of the most commonly used data structures in Python. They are used to store an ordered collection of items. You can define a list by putting a comma-separated sequence of items inside square brackets. Here is an example of how to define a list and add items to it. In this example, we first define a list called myList and initialize it with the values 1, 2, and 3. We then use the append method to add the value 4 to the end of the list. Finally, we print out the value of myList and we get the output 1, 2, 3, and 4. Lists are very useful when you want to store multiple items and be able to access them easily. We can access list items by their index. List index starts from 0. For example, here I want to get items at index 0 and index 1. To get the last item in the list, we can use -1 as an index. Here is an example. To get a sublist from the original list, we use list slicing. For example, to get items from index 1 to 3, we can write specifying index 1 to 4. Note that the second index in slicing is the last index we desire plus 1. Here are other slicing notations. Here, by specifying only the second index, we get the list items from the beginning up to the index 3. In this notation, we just specify the first index and we get the list item from the index 2 up to the end of the list. And here, when we don't specify the index, it is equivalent to the whole list. Let's run this. So this is the sublist from the beginning up to index 3, which is equals to the original list. This is the list start from index 2 up to the end of the list. And this one is the same as the original list. We can define a multi-dimensional list as well. So each element of the matrix is a list. We can access any of the inner lists by index operator. To access the third element in the second inner list, which is number 6, we use the index operator for the inner list at index 1 and then inside that use index 2. There is a short way to create a list based on another list, which is called list comprehension. Let's say we have a list of numbers. We want to get the list of even numbers from that list. The way that we create comprehension list is like this. Our first expression iterates our items in the list with a for loop and then applies if condition. Now let's print a new list which works as expected. That is equivalent to this code. Creating a new list, iterating over the original list, apply the if condition and append to the new list. Now let's review some common functions on lists. We talked about append to add one element at the end of the list. Extend adds multiple elements to a list. Index returns the first appearance of a particular value. Max that returns an item from the list with a maximum value. And min that returns the minimum value in the list. Len returns the length of the list. Insert that adds a component at the required position. The first argument is the position and the second argument is the value. Count method that returns the number of elements with the required value. Pop that removes the element at the required position. Remove function that removes an item with the desired value. Reverse method to reverse the order of the list. Sort method to sort the list in ascending order. And clear method to remove all the elements from the list. Tuples are similar to lists in that they are used to store an ordered collection of items. However, unlike lists, tuples are immutable, which means you cannot add, remove, or modify items after they have been defined. Duplicate values are allowed in tuples like lists. Here is an example of how to define a tuple and access its items. In this example, we first define a tuple called myTuple and initialize it with the values 1, 2, and 3. Note that to define tuples, we use parentheses to store items. We then use the index operator to access the second item in the tuple, which is 2. Finally, we print out the value of my tuple 1 and we get the output 2. Here is another example that we define tuple 1 equals to the values of Python, Java, C, and VB. We can access tuple items by slicing. For example, tuple 1 from index 1 will return Java, C, and VB. We also can iterate over a tuple. Let's say we have these two tuples. We can join tuples by plus operator. Some useful functions in tuples include len function to return the number of items in a tuple, tuple.count that return the number of a specified value in a tuple, and tuple.index that return the position of a specified item. Tuples are useful when you want to store multiple items and be sure that they won't be modified. They are also useful when you want to use them as keys in a dictionary, since lists are not hashable. We will see it in the next video. Okay, we learned about Python lists and tuples and how to work with them. Remember that you can use lists when you want to store multiple items and access them easily. And you can use tuples when you want to store multiple items and make sure they won't be modified. In the next video, we continue on Python built-in data structures, including sets and dictionaries. See you then.